Hi guys, and welcome to another video. So at the minute there isn't really a massive amount going on transfer wise. Well, at least as far as we're concerned, there's very little transfer rumours. There's the odd bit here and there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing going on. But whilst there isn't anything seemingly going on, I thought, why don't we actually just sit down and have a chat about what I think we actually need in terms of positions, how many players, and that's something that I've been asked several times in comments and videos, social media. Joel, how many players do you reckon we need? So what we're going to do, I'm just going to quickly just break down the squad and where I think needs improving and what is our priority. Stuff like that, do you know what I mean? Really exciting stuff. Yeah. Then also at the end of the video, I'm going to sort of give you my expectation for the season maybe, or where I think, or where I'd be happy with in terms of a league standing, a table finish, do you know what I mean? Because I know that everyone seems to have such varying expectations for the season, and it's going to be because it's the first time, particularly in my lifetime, I've seen us come up from the third tier of football. Generally Sunderland have been a Premier League side, or we've gone from Championship to or the top of the Championship around my life. Do you know what I mean? We haven't really seen much less than that in my lifetime. So to come up, so immediately expect maybe to finish top, for me, I think that's a bit unrealistic, but other people, expect that or want that. Of course, we all want that, but some people are simply expecting it, which I think is a bit much. But we'll get into that anyway towards the end of the video. But we'll go through the squad and what I think needs improving. So in the goalkeeper position, of course, we have Pato, who just recently signed the new deal, 4-year deal. We have Jacob Carney as well. I think there's another youth player as well. But for me, I think there's a clear shortage there. Pato, he needs some form of competition. Carney, he might benefit from a loan spell, or maybe just being around the first team because he's still a young lad. And like I say, I think there is another youth player that has been hanging around, but you definitely need more competition in the goalkeeping department. And I think that is actually a little bit of a priority there, because if Pato gets injured, we're screwed. Not saying Carney can't do a job, and that's not saying that goalkeepers don't get injured too often, but so the likeliness isn't particularly high. But I think we need a goalkeeper. We've been linked with Ruddy, Iverson as well. Some different players here and there throughout the transfer window so far that hasn't quite materialised. But I feel like we just need someone with a bit more experience, an experienced head alongside Pato, because it would make Pato not only work harder, but he will learn more from a more experienced player. And then if needs be, if we have an experienced head and we need him, then you've got something to fall back on rather than another youth player in Jacob Carney, if that makes sense. So for me, that's one player right there. So we need a goalkeeper. Now, across the back line, of course, in the centre of defence, we currently have Danny Bart, we have Bollard, who we just bought, and Bailey Wright as well. Those are the key three centre-backs we have. So generally speaking, I'd like to see us have 4 centre-backs, because if we are going to play 4 at the back, so then you have cover for both. So I like to double up personally. I don't know if everyone else agrees, but I like to double up in each position. So for example, left back, I'd like to see 2 left backs. I want us to have 2 right backs. So of course there's 2 centre backs playing in the back 4. So I'd like to see 4 centre backs in the squad, if that makes sense. That's generally how I see a squad working, minimum. So for us to just have 3 senior centre backs, I think we definitely need another one. Been rumours here and there about loans for Premier League centre backs, which I think would probably fit the bill in terms of youth, but again, it's only minor rumours. Very, very little is happening at the moment in terms of rumours, which isn't, again, necessarily a bad thing. We've done things very sort of on the hush-hush over the last couple of transfer windows, and I've appreciated that. There hasn't been, even before the signing of Bollard, there wasn't a massive amount of rumours before, and it was actually like the 24 hours before it, then boom, he was a Sunderland player. So we're doing things sort of behind closed doors, we're doing it quietly, and I do appreciate that. So it wouldn't surprise me if we just see a flurry of signings, in the next week. With very little room before it happens. So we'll see. But yeah, so we definitely need a centre-back. So that's 2, a goalkeeper and a centre-back. Now, left-back, we only have Sirkin. And for so many years now, so many seasons, particularly throughout the League One seasons, we've been using makeshift defenders. We've had Luke O'Nien playing centre-back. He played right-back as well for large parts of his career with Sunderland so far. Winchester's doing it. Gooch is at right-back, So I'd like to see another left-back. I know that it might not necessarily be a priority with Sirkin fit, and you've got the versatility of someone like Gooch, who can maybe shift over there, or Winchester, or Trey Hume if he needs to go over there. So they might not see it as a huge priority because of the versatility of other players. But I know it's versatile, but it's not necessarily logical when you're generally trying to defend and against higher tier players to have someone like Lyndon Gooch, who isn't a full-back in the first place, and then stick him over on the left-hand side, something like that. I don't think it's logical. So for me, I do actually think a left-back is a pretty big priority. So a left-back as well, I think we need. That's 3 players so far in total. Right back, of course, we have Huggins, who needs to come back from injury, but he's going to be way off it because he's been injured for so long, the best part of, 6-7 months now. So if that, in more than that maybe. So he's going to take a hell of a long time to get back to fitness. And now we have Winchester, who's a central midfielder. Gucci isn't a right back, in my opinion. Of course, Trey Hume, who I think he might end up going out on loan, depending on what Alex Neil thinks of him. Or he might have seen enough of him in pre-season to think, okay, he's a squad player, or maybe even starting. You never know. I've liked the look of Trey Hume every time I've seen him. He's in spits and spurts. I've quite liked it. But again, I don't think that would be seen as a priority, purely because the amount of options they have there, even though they aren't ideal options. I hope you understand what I mean by that. But yeah, so of course, there's Winchester, Gooch, Trey Hume, Huggins to come back. There's a lot of plays there. Personally, I'd like to see a right back come in. A natural right back, but with all those options, will it happen? Remains to be seen. Maybe they could bring in someone who is naturally left or right back and can play both, so they can cover circuit if needs be, or start on the right hand side. Do you know what I mean? So maybe a fourth there. Now in the central midfield, I think we do have quite an abundance of players. With Evans, Dan Neil, Matete, Embleton can play back there as well. O'Nien. And I've always said, I actually prefer Embleton starting from deep. And I know he's generally an attacking player. He can play out wide or as a number 10. But I find that he plays so much better when he starts from deep. And we saw that towards the back end of last season. He looks so much better because sometimes if you stick him in that number 10 role, because the centre midfielders that we have on the pitch at that point, whilst he's in number 10, they're not attacking enough or they're not positive enough. So he won't see the ball in the positions Embleton needs the ball to prove to be effective, if that makes sense. So if he's already starting in the middle, he's so much better there. He's so much better there for me. But generally, a lot of people consider him to be a more higher up player on the pitch. But yes, the four central midfielders there, more natural central midfielders. But I think we need at least one sort of big brute. Kamara from Plymouth, I've said, would be ideal. I think that's what we need. We need a bit more physicality, height, build in there. Because although there is a little bit of tenacity amongst the players we've got, they're quite short, but they're not quite that sort of presence that we might need in the midfield. So I think maybe one more central midfielder for me would do at least, because it's a big jump. League One to Championship is a big jump. You've got the experience of Evans in there, Dan Neil. He kind of fell in and out of favour with Alex Neil. O'Nien, I think Alex Neil's a fan of because O'Nien's versatility as well, can go all over the pitch. Is he Championship standard? That remains to be seen. Matete, he's the sort of almost box to box a little bit. It's like a little whippet in either way. He runs around the pitch, but he's still not really proved or proven with us. I remember when he started with us, he looked really good, exciting for the first couple of games, and then didn't really start. And then when he did come on, he was relatively poor. So he still has a lot to prove, and it's another step above for him. And they're all young lads. Remember, a lot of these are very young lads. So at least one in the middle. So far we've got a keeper, a left back, centre back, possibly a right back, and a central midfielder. So that's 5 so far. Now, in terms of wingers, we do have an abundance, really, don't we? with Roberts, Clark, Gooch can play there if needs be, Dietrich as well. There's plenty of bodies there. Would they want to add another one after the money they've spent on Clark? You could obviously play in the wing as well. You've got Diamond, of course, never forgot Diamond, but would he benefit from another loan? But I think Diamond is now at the age where he should be playing. He should be playing week in, week out for football and a settled home. I've seen people say they should go back out on loan. You never know. Throughout pre-season, it might prove to impress. Neil, you never know. But now the striking department. So, the wingers, I wouldn't be utterly gutted if we didn't bring anyone else in, although I would like that little sprinkling. But I think in terms of necessities, I will leave that for the moment. But now the striking department, this is where we are so bare, and I think we need a minimum of 2 strikers. Because you've got Ross Stewart there, and he's all by himself. And if we have Dietrich as the only backup, then God help us. Do you know what I mean? I know a lot of people give me a bit of stick because of the amount of stick I give to Dietrich, but it's just more, you can see that he's got something there, and I've seen comments say maybe he needs that sort of Alex Neil sprinkling of magic. That could be right, and I hope he does well. I want him to do well. There's just something that sits with him that I just don't think he's going to make it. It frustrates me because, like I said, when we first got him, I thought he looked horrendous, and then I was made to eat my own hat because he did well for 2-3 games, but bear in mind the level of teams he was playing against. He got a goal against Crewe, and everyone thought he was Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? But it was a good goal, don't get me wrong. You can only beat who you're up against, but generally just hasn't impressed me, and I just think he looked that bad at times in League One. how is he going to possibly make the jump to the Championship? That's just my concern about Dietrich. But in terms of a striker, you know, we might want to play 2 up top in one game. There might be a system where it's best to play 2 up top, and Shoot has no one apart from Dietrich there at the minute. Broadhead would be ideal, and then maybe a sort of a youth loan signing from the Premier League, you know, a young striker or something who can fill in the gaps here and there. So for me, you've got a goalkeeper, a left back, at least one centre back, potentially a right back, central midfielder, and then 2 strikers. So for me, 6 or 7 players is a minimum, really, because people, so I think players, and I think Alex Neil may have alluded to in an interview, some players will be going out as well, be it on loan or permanently leaving the club. We need to fill these gaps. So I think 6 or 7 players at least it's looking like. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Of course, let me know in the comments down below. Now, in terms of expectations, for me, it is simply a case of staying up. A lot of people have said that, you know, even if we just finish 20th or 19th, you know, stay up. That's it. That's the bread and butter. That's it. For me, yes, of course, for me, it is simply stay up. I would hate it if we finished in like a 19th place and we played shocking all season and we scraped it. It's still technically somewhat of a success because you're stabilising the club, but that isn't what I would like to see. And I'm not going to sit here and say I want us to go for the playoffs. I'm not expecting that. Those aren't my expectations. I don't know, maybe like a 14th or a 15th to 12th place finish to me would be very nice. Sort of in the middle where, you know, you might win one game, lose the next, draw the next, win one. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a pure consolidation season where there's not too much drama, but we're consolidating ourselves. We're getting our foot under the door and under the table, should I say? Just consolidating ourselves with the club in the Championship now, because it is a big jump up. And I don't want to go too unrealistic. There's pundits that are even touting us for playoff winners already and stuff, and it's ridiculous that for me, because if you look at the squad now, the only real addition has been Bollard. And this is still 100% a League One squad. Granted, there's a few players that could probably maybe do a job in the Championship, but they're untested. A lot of these players are untested in the Championship, but it is still largely a League One team. So for people to say, oh, well, we're going to win the league this year, come on, let's have a little bit of realism. But yeah, also, in terms of transfers, you know, I've seen a little bit on social media, right, where people are getting a little bit impatient, given it's only a couple of weeks before the first game of the season. So I do get that to an extent. But the one thing I see a lot is when, you know, a journalist might say, this player is going to this team. I believe that Sunderland were interested in, but he's gone here. Don't believe it. Don't always believe it. It's just filler. You know what I mean? It's rubbish. A lot of it is garbage. And also, you know, when you see a player, you know, there's a big difference basically between what the club wants and what the fans want. Like, for example, Dion Sanderson, he's moved over. He's moved to someone else who isn't Sunderland. Everyone's going, oh, we're missing out on all our targets. How the hell do you know that I was a Sunderland target? There was no evidence that suggested that Sunderland were even remotely interested in Sanderson. That was just what the fans want. That's your target, not the club's target. Do you know what I mean? So I think just everyone should calm down a little bit. I can understand a little bit of anxiety and impatience given the quietness around the club at the minute, but we'll get there. I'm thoroughly in the belief that we will get there and we'll have a decent squad, hopefully anyway, by the first game of the season, or at least a few more additions. I'm thoroughly under that belief. So anyway, everything we've mentioned in this video, let me know how you feel in the comments down below, and please like and subscribe. I keep battering this here, absolutely battering you with this. Please subscribe. We're just over 100 away from 15k, and it really would make my year. It really would. You know, I love doing this. I love you guys. I love, you know, talking to you guys and talking shit, and you guys seem to somewhat enjoy it. Let's get to 15,000, eh? Let's get the Sarny army to 15,000. But anyway, thank you ever so much as usual, and thanks for the support. Take care and stay jammy.